Hey guys, if you're new here and you like what I'm putting out, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you never miss an upload. So I know I say this every month when a Power Ranger comic is released and done by Ryan Parrott, but this issue is probably my favorite issue so far that's been released because this issue had a lot going for it. It had classic characters returning, classic characters being name dropped, world building, lore, just character development. It had a lot going for it, packed into this issue, and I loved every second of it. Every turn pager was a gasping moment of learning something new in this comic book and the lore that Ryan has created since his run on Go-Go Power Rangers and taking over the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers run, because there is so much going into this comic that ties into Mighty Morphin that we've seen and this comic that we've seen. Oh, I don't know where to begin when talking about it because it's crazy, but let's take it from the top and do a play-by-play of almost everything that happens in this issue. So the issue starts off with our main players on the planet Onyx, and they're sort of divided into teams here. Jason and Zach are going to the bar that we saw last issue to gamble and get some information on the jet booster or engine, whatever they're chasing, while Trini, Drakken, and 11 are on the ship doing repairs. So we've got an even amount of characters doing their own things, as they have their own side stories that are definitely going to connect moving forward in the plot. So Jason and Zach, they go to the bar and they gamble with a person that we've seen before. And I love this bar because you see so many Power Ranger monster references. I probably can't name all the random monsters we see, but we do see some iconic characters like villainous hanging out in the bar doing his own thing, because villainous was a dude that chilled on the planet Onyx when we saw him in Lost Galaxy. So it's cool to see that character make a cameo here in this issue of Power Rangers. But I've also got to give special props to the artist Francesco Mortarino and the colorer Riol and Golo. I do apologize if I butchered your name, but they do an excellent job with the coloring and the art going here, because everything on the planet Onyx stands out and pops really well with the characters and the coloring color choices they use in this issue. It stands out really well, and they deserve a lot of credit with the hard work they're putting in this comic, so props to them. So Zach and Jason get into a weird card game with this big purple looking dude who's like some sort of octopus man. He's got a cigar in his hand. He looks pretty cool. I do dig his design. So they get into a card game with this character, and Zach thinks he's winning, but then he gets, I don't know how this game works. They use skulls and swords, but Zach thinks he's going to win, but he doesn't win. Then suddenly we get the appearance of everyone's favorite character, Astronema, Princess of Evil, and she looks fucking amazing in this comic. I love her design in this comic because her left arm is like a bit of like Ecliptor with the green and black, and she's also got that cat suit going on with her, the bodysuit, which looks really cool, and a bit of chest armor. I love her design in this comic, but what she's also rocking is these really cool daggers that are really freaking awesome. So Astronomer shows up and she calls out this big dude saying, "Hey, hand over the Rangers and no one gets hurt," and everyone's attention gets shifted to Zach and Jason in the bar as they're outed as Rangers. And once they're outed, they morph and get into a fight with Astronomer. And I love this fight scene in the bar because things get escalated really, really quickly once Astronomer shows up and starts causing trouble, wanting to kill some Rangers. So a fight scene escalates and Jason and Zach morph, and what's really interesting as when they morph, you see a group of aliens and they're really confused because they've never seen the Omega Rangers before, and they have an interesting choice of words saying they're new before, but Emperor Grum will pay a hefty reward for their heads. That's right, Emperor Grum gets name dropped in this comic because Grum is still out there at this point in the comic, because I believe it was in the Power Rangers 25th anniversary comic. There is a one-shot story where Astronema is put on trial for the crimes and sins she's committed as a villain, and Doggy Kruger's one of the people that speaks up there. And if I remember correctly, Astronema did help Grum take over Kruger's home planet many years ago. I could be wrong. I'll have a reference up on the screen if I can find it, but I believe that's the choice of words that they used in that comic. I could be wrong, it's been a while since I've read it. So the fight between Astronomer, Jason and Zack is taken outside, but is quickly interrupted by SPD. That's right, SPD makes an appearance in this comic. Not the SPD we know from the TV show. I believe these guys are probably just a bunch of cadets or soldiers on guard. I believe that's what they say in the comic, but they're not Rangers from what we've seen so far. So Jason, Zack and Astronomer, they're all arrested and taken into custody by these SPD officers stationed on Onyx, and Jason is brought in for interrogation, and they're asking him, where's Lord Drakken? And Jason's like, I don't know anything about Lord Drakken. What are you talking about? Who's Lord Drakken? And then one of the dudes says, well, we'll bring up a message received from someone you might know. But I also want to talk about these SPD officers. They look really cool. I love their design. I just want to talk about their design and drool over their design right now, because they are wearing what looks to be Scouters from Dragon Ball Z, and I love that. I love Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball Z. That just pops me. It looks like they're wearing Scouters on their head. Like Francesco, putting that little reference in there. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but I love it. Thank you. Mwah. So, Zordon's message shows up that we learnt about, I think, way back in Mighty Morphin issue 2, when that happened, and you see his message where Zordon says, hey, Drakken's escaped, there's these 3 Rangers roaming around, if you see them, bring them to me immediately. So that's the message that Zordon put out all those months ago. So after the message plays, the 2 officers say to Jason saying, Zordon's a friend of the SPD, and we take what he says seriously, so you better start telling the truth, because if not, we're going to dump you and your friend on Earth first thing in the morning. So Jason's like, shit. yeah, things aren't looking good for Jason. Hopefully he can keep his cool. So after that, we then cut to Zack and Astronomer in the cell, and Zack's trying to understand why Astronomer doesn't like Power Rangers. So he's like, hey, do they kill your alien boyfriend or break out of your fancy daggers? And Astronomer goes, no, they murdered my entire family. So then she starts fighting Zack in the prison cell, but that's quickly broken up as they put a laser barrier between the two, separating them. So it's good to understand that Astronomer's got more of a darker backstory in this comic, because in the TV show, it was like she was just brainwashed or taught to hate Power Rangers. Learning there's more of a darker intent to the story, it makes it even more awesome. So while this is all going on, let's talk about the subplot or the secondary story, whatever you want to call it, between Trini, Drakken, and 11, because this is some serious shit we learn in this comic as well, because there's a lot of lore that gets broken down between these characters. So we start off with Trini and Drakken having a conversation, and Trini's like, yo, Drakken, why are you such a dick? She doesn't say it like that, but she's like, why do you do the things you do? Why do you try to conquer everything? Why don't you open up to people? And Drakken replies with, well, you know what's the hardest thing about living on the streets, Trini? You never sleep, because he remembers when he had his 3rd night alone on the streets, he was exhausted, hadn't slept, and he found some other homeless woman who seemed nice, and they agreed to keep an eye on each other while the other one slept, and while Tommy slept, or while Drakken slept, she basically robbed him and took his shoes and his wallets, and Drakken says, like, the nicest person you can meet could be a total dick or not as you think they are. So Drakken shows that to Trini, saying, not everything's black and white as you see it. And Trini's like, I'm sorry, Tommy never told us about that. So you learn some interesting backstory between not Trini, but Drakken. Like, you have the interactions between Trini and Drakken as you see these characters interacting. And these two characters interacting that Ryan is doing has been very interesting that he's paired these two characters together, because I love the chemistry and the banter and the back and forth between these characters, because Trini is like the right level-headed person to kind of pick Drakken's brain apart and learn more about him for the audience. So this is where things get crazy. Really, really freaking crazy when it comes to lore in the Power Ranger comics. So Trini asks Eleven if he's found anything on the stone thing they found last issue, and Eleven says he run a molecular scan or something science related, and he found out the last person that saw the emissary, the red emissary, was a guy called Sire Lentivis, and he was a philosopher from the planet Edenoi over 16,000 years ago. And I know what you're thinking, over 16,000 years ago, and apparently he died before the age of 28. But this is where things get even more crazy, because Eleven says this guy claimed to see the birth of the universe. And here we get some interesting backstory where we learn how the emissaries were created, and with light comes darkness, and as the blue emissary started dying, this is when the Imperials started popping up all over the universe. So this is some very interesting lore that we're learning about in the comics when it comes to the emissaries, the Imperials, the Morphin Masters, and even learning about a character from Edenoi getting name dropped in this comic. So I do wonder if we're going to see Edenoi in this comic eventually. I don't know, because it's masked writer and copyright and stuff like that. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But are we going to get someone from Edenoi showing up eventually if they got name dropped? Because that would be wild. That would be freaking wild if we're going to see characters from Edenoi show up in this comic, because they seem like they know a lot about the galaxy and the lore in the Power Rangers universe. I don't know, we'll wait and see. So the final few pages are really crazy, but we kind of knew that this character was going to be making an appearance due to the cover of the comic and stuff like that. So the final few pages, you see a cloaked being sneaking on the ship, and Drakken gets the jump on him, gets into a fist fight with the dude, but he breaks up the fight and says, "Enough, I'm not here to fight, I want your help." And the person takes off their cloak, and it's revealed to be Ecliptor, and he says, "I'm here because I believe we can help one another." Now, I can understand what Ecliptor's motive is right now. He wants to break Astronema out of jail and probably find something important in there. What that is, no idea. So I get the feeling that the enemy of my enemy is my friend is going to happen, and there is going to be some more betrayal beyond this point. But Ecliptor in the comic looks really dope, and I do dig his design. He looks freaking awesome. But what's also really interesting is his right arm is different to his left arm. It's more mechanical, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe we'll get an explanation, but it's cool to see Ecliptor in this comic, because he is one of my favorite characters from Power Rangers in space, and it's cool to see him in the comics. So yeah, that's issue 5 of Power Rangers, and overall, this was probably the best issue this month. I mean, this was better than the Mighty Morphin one. The Mighty Morphin one was cool, as we got to see Matt's backstory, but this one was just action, 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 lore, all the way through, and I loved it because it expanded on so much we already know and things we don't know about what's out there in the Power Ranger universe when it comes to the comics. And I'm really excited to see what Ryan is going to do next when it comes to this Power Rangers comic. Like, he's got my attention full blast, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next month with these characters coming together and forming some kind of alliance. I mean, that is freaking badass. So we're seeing Drakken and Trini and Ecliptor forming an alliance. We're seeing some interactions between Astronomer and the old Mighty Morphin team. Stuff we would never get in the TV show, we're getting in the comics, and that's what I love about it. Anyway guys, that's my review of Power Rangers issue 5. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to all the members such as Swagger4. If you want to get your name shouted out at the end of a video like Swagger4 over here, become a Zord tier member or higher, where you'll get special perks on the channel such as badges, emojis, and all sorts of other stuff. So with that said, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day or night. Bye!